timelessness becomes a profound influence, and you get weaned off of time. Yeah. Time has provoked so much anxiety and fear of what's going to happen that you can never, even if you found peace, you wouldn't be able to enjoy it because you'd be worried that you'll lose it the next day. Yeah. Even if there's a great rest stop, it's not going to be for long. You're always getting driven back on the road. Time is like we're immersed in time. This thought system is totally drenched in time. And it's just a mental stream. It's some product of mind. It's not real, nor is it non-real. But it really influences everyone. Most of the time you really learn about what you would call the problem from the solution. When the solution starts dawning on you, you really get a sense of what was the problem. You really do. And I'll tell you, time, the thought system is drenched in it. You know? There's no one, I used to go hiking with people and they were like, you could see their minds 4 steps ahead, planning on the next hike, you know? They weren't even at the hike. Or people in recovery say, how many meetings should you go to? How about this one? You know what I mean? How about attending to the one you're at? So they're constantly moving to the next satsang or the next this or that. The mind is like a slave master. With time, and the whip it uses is time. It's just whipping, and it's constant, like a giant herd being forced to go to different troughs, always looking down a dry well for something to drink, some thirst that never lasts. Yeah, to me, it's a form of slavery, real slavery, and to be free from it is inherently available for everyone sitting here. Because the slavery, in a sense, is allowed to have its influence by the seen. If you were unconscious, the exquisite suffering that the mind's producing wouldn't be noticed. Yeah? And on the other side of the coin, it's the same clarity and awareness that allows your mind to fly and entertain that emptiness, you know? Where there's clarity and just, like if you're a recovered alcoholic, you become like a free-range alcoholic. You get a lot of space in your life. You honor the coop, but you don't live in the coop anymore. You know? No matter how great the tools are, the greatest day is about a tool is when it's not needed, you know? You can put it down. Even a tool weighs something. This is all about, for me, it's all about traveling lighter, and it's like constantly being whittled down, yeah, until the point where I don't know how far it can go, but all I see is the intention is that it's lighter and lighter, yeah. More and more that you thought was essential and necessary, or subconsciously there was a holding on to its value, gets to be revealed not to be that valuable, yeah. And then it's what you thought was adding on to you, its absence is your fulfillment in a weird way. Yeah, it's so trippy. It really is. All the ornaments that you thought were like your saving grace is just weighing you down. Yeah. And if you take a position, you'll always be shown. Like in recovery, they say, when you come in, you got to be willing to save your ass instead of your face. You know? But I needed like a spiritual anatomy class because I thought my face was my ass. I thought the image my head had of me was who I was, and it was killing me. Yeah, my ass was dropping off, but I thought I looked pretty cool. So it is truly relief. You get relieved. You get relieved. So I like the approach of looking at and seeing what you're not. What's producing this effect called a sense of self. Yeah? Because it is produced. When you were supposedly born or the birth occurred and there was a kid there, supposedly there's no sense of other or self for 18 months or something like that. And I think some research is saying that the arising of the sense of self, or the selfing, coincides with the arising of the language center. So the language center, the language that's being used in our head is really what's reinforcing the sense of being a self, because it's a subjective language used by objects. Yeah? This is an object, and it's using a subjective language. It's trying to own something that it has no right to try to own. So if you look at the basic thing that's happening, life is conscious contact, isn't it? Consciousness is contact. Conscious contact. The conscious contact, if you probably know it, is the hearing, seeing, feeling, tasting, touching, and then there's a conscious contact through the mental system where you hear thoughts. Yeah. So there's 6 different set gates, and consciousness is having an experience here with all this stuff, this seeing stuff. Okay. Now the mental process arises after the conscious contact, but what it says is that it's the one that's conscious. It crowns a king that doesn't deserve the throne. It makes this mental idea the king. And now you become the one who's seeing and hearing and feeling and tasting and touching and thinking. And as soon as that happens, the consciousness is forgotten. And what's remembered is the thinker, the hearer, the feeler, the taster, the toucher. Every sound that's heard is accompanied with, I'm the hearer of it. Yeah? Every moment of conscious contact, the mental process is claiming it. Every moment. Not as I'm the sound, but I'm the hearer of the sound. Not as I'm the thought, but I'm the thinker of the thought. Not that I'm the feeling, but I'm the feeler of the feeling. Yeah? This is it. This in recovery they talk about playing God. That's playing God. And yet, the conscious contact will always precede the mental process. Yeah? The mental process needs time. Consciousness doesn't need time. Yeah? So the mental process is claiming to be in front of and behind the camera when it can only appear in front of the camera. That's why it's seeing what you're not is, to me, the revelation. Yeah? You get to the point where you can't go beyond what's seeing, and then you see everything that's constructing you and reinforcing you all day. And you may still, the attention and the emphasis may still stay on the you for a while, the mental object, but maybe once and then many times the emphasis will be on the seeing, and there'll be a recognition of home. Yeah? The mind will finally land where it can find rest. Yeah? It'll finally find a place where it can rest. Yeah? That's stable enough, that's always there, that's always available at all times. And then it starts comprehending the word serenity and knowing peace. Yeah? Then it has a new attitude and a new outlook on life. Then it knows a new freedom and a new happiness. Not another freedom and happiness a re-milled freedom and happiness we've gone through thousands of times, the next girl, the next this, and the next that, but a whole new freedom and a new happiness, meaning it's not from that system of thought called self-centeredness. It's coming from another system of mind. Let's call it centeredness. And it's downloading. And now you're seeing anew. You see anew. And then you're placed in a position of neutrality with no thought or effort on your part. You see the fallacy of the formula of doing and having, at least in this case. You can't do and have yourself into your own beingness. You cannot do and have yourself into your own beingness. You can do and have yourself into a concept of your beingness, but you cannot do and have yourself into your own beingness. Beingness is prior to doing and having. You can't do and have and become something, yeah? You are no thing. And so from being, if being is complete in and of itself, it's not in any process of unbecoming or becoming, yeah? It's not using any formula to get somewhere. Basically what it's doing is expressing, yeah? And it can also, even though if it's funneled through the self-centered system, it'll express separation and limitation and all like this, it can also express, not coming from the self-centeredness, some other aspects of mind, which isn't separation, yeah? Which is fulfillment, which is feeling okay, which has the ability to entertain peace and serenity, not based on time and circumstances, but just based on the innate nature of your own mind. This to me is freedom. This is freedom. Freedom from the bondage of self. And for me, the freedom from the bondage of self, it's never a noun, it never will be a noun, it never can be a noun. Yeah? It's not the doer, it's not the hearer, it's not the thinker. What's hearing cannot be heard, what's feeling cannot be felt, what's seeing cannot be seen. You're never going to get to an vantage point to see what's seen. So what happens if the thought system is now, when a thought goes through your head, it's not held as yours, you're not the thinker anymore? Find out. I'll tell you, there'll be a lot of weight extracted out of it, that's for sure. Yeah? We always did this all the time. Put important topics, let's say money up here, relationships here, yeah, health. They're important to all of us, yeah, some degree or another. And you weigh them. That is what you believe your situation is. You weigh them. Now, let's change the weight dramatically. Put the word my in front of it. My money. Yeah, exactly. My relationship. My health. Hugely different, isn't it? That's what's happening all day. All day. All day. It's not like you're bonded to anything one time and now you're in the bondage of it. It's a constant reapplication of an imaginary glue. Yeah? The mind gets bonded to the idea of being a self, constantly, on and on and on and on and on. It can't hold because it's not so the glue has to be reapplied all day. So you have like 70 freaking thousand thoughts running through your head all day. I mean, I'm a house painter. I need maybe 15 thoughts to do a job. I mean, I walk in, I'm never surprised. There's usually 4 walls and a ceiling. And, that's it. And I think about where I got to eat and stuff like that. What are the 69,980 other thoughts doing? They're being used to do something. They're being used to bond the mind to a crazy idea that it's a long-lasting, independent, separate entity that can be the source of love but yet never feel love. It's fucking insanity. So, there is a solution. And from the solution's point of view, there is no problem. So there goes the solution too. That goes out with it. I mean, you don't have to add 1 ounce. You don't have to carry anything. You don't have to make sure it's in your back pocket. Yeah? Let's go. Is there any questions today? I could go on, I guess. Let's see. I want to explain one thing. This is just my opinion about all this stuff. But it is a message, yeah? It's not like a dissertation. You know what I mean? More is not better with this stuff. It isn't. A lot of things that are applicable to a lot of other endeavors we have in life don't work on this one little idea. Doesn't work. Yeah, you're not gonna, if you sit for 8 hours listening, it doesn't mean it's going to improve your chances of getting it if you only heard it in 5 minutes. Yeah? If an invitation's very short and sweet usually, right? Hey, meet me at 8 o'clock. I don't have to explain why you need to meet me, why you should, or what's going to happen if you don't. It's just a simple invitation. That's what this message is. Yeah? Simple invitation. It can be repeated quite a lot, which is good. That's why we do the talks. Where I live, we do 2 talks a week because the repetition helps. Just because the way the mental condition does its thing is repetition. So we use the poison as an antidote. So we repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. The mind's in different states at different times, at different meanings. One thing that didn't get through on Monday gets through on Wednesday. There's an aha, an unspoken yes, and it's like Ramana Maharshi says, if you know him, he did say, your head's already in the tiger's mouth. It's a done deal. Yeah? Once the mind starts waking up from this freaking trance, if the grace is there, there's no stopping it. How could anything stop the mind? Everything proceeds from the mind. How can anything stop the mind if everything proceeds from the mind? So you can save yourself a lot of time. Like in the Course in Miracles, they have a great chapter which is I need do nothing. Yeah. And he describes all these different kinds of path. The path of contemplation, the path of meditation, the path of karma yoga. And it says, they're all going to work inevitably because it's mind's intention. So mind will come do whatever it's going to do. But you can save some time. So if you're reading this book, The Course in Miracles, maybe this is what it's going to do for you, save time. And so what I do is, if all the paths are going to take you to that realization, I need do nothing, let's start there. Yeah? Let's start at I need do nothing. And then see what's added on. Instead of adding on a lot of stuff that's going to have to be removed, start with I need do nothing, and then see what life adds on. Yeah, it might be a much lighter package than what you're planning on. You may not have to go to as great lengths as you think you have to go to. There's a statement in recovery that says you have to be willing to go to any lengths, and a lot of people run. Any lengths meaning what? It could be no length.
Yeah.
It says willing to go to any length. Part of any length is no length. Yeah, isn't it? I mean, in recovery, after some years, people would call me up at night at 1 in the morning and they say, can you help us? We got to bring this guy to a detox. He's really in bad shape. And so I would say, okay. And I was willing to go to any lengths. And then as soon as I'm putting my pants on, I get a call back, oh, we've taken it care of. So I got all the creds, but I didn't have to do anything. I was willing, and that's all that matters, the willingness. I was willing. When you're willing to entertain this thing that the mind itself does it, you're not needed. Yeah? The mind entertains it. In a way, you become irrelevant. There's this little voice box that's there, yapping I, me, my all day. It becomes irrelevant, and the mind does it. It just starts entertaining possibilities, and it expands. Yeah. It's like it's like yoga. Let's say self-centeredness is like a yoga practice, but it only has one asana, one posture, which is like this. Yeah, contraction. Totally contraction, fear of time and all this stuff, this and that. And then you hear this message. For you to really entertain this message, you have to come out of that posture a little bit. That's what you start sensing when you start entertaining the message. You get bigger seemingly, it's like that, because the mind's just opening up. It's coming, it's like been folded and crimped, yeah? And it just opens up. And so just keep, and just, it's going to entertain no matter what. If you're believing this bullshit, it's going to entertain the reality of this. If you give it something else to entertain, it will entertain. That's what mind does here. It's called manifestation. It's entertaining possibilities all day. Let's just give it some new possibilities. Yeah. Yes. We'll get to you too. No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, can you relate? How would you relate the brain to the mind? If there's so much activity, like Well,
I would say the brain is what's facilitating the mind to manifest.
Well, okay, but don't you need an ego to maintain some sort of normalcy, because you get so much activity, like in the brain, the higher brain, or I don't want to get into too much technicalities here, but you know what I'm getting at, Paul? So you need some sort of an ego to make things look as if it's all happening. Otherwise, there's just too much going on, too much stimulus going on in the brain, right? So
well, that's doing it already.
You need some sort of an ego just to maintain as if everything is just copacetic. Like if you were to say, you got a billion neurons.
Well, what may be saying that is the ego itself. The ego is always going to look for its own survival.
But that's actually
the ego is really needed. Why? Because I'm the ego. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying on the hardwired side of things, that's actually what's going on. So therefore, you need an ego because there's too much stimulus coming in all the time. That's coming in. So just to make it look as if we're just sitting here relaxed, you got an ego. You have to have something. So that's
when we talk
about
the
ego gets out of control.
When I talk about the ego, that's not what I'm talking about. The sense of self.
No?
The sense of self is different than the ego for me. Yes, the sense of self is a sense. It's sense and felt. Yeah, you feel it. Yeah, it's prior to the ego. The ego is another story about the sense of self. But the sense of self is different. When the sense of self is seen through, the ego will be used in a sense as its rightful place. When someone says Paul, I look, you know? You know what I mean? Now it becomes your little name tag, it's not you. It's sort of like, it's like an outfit you're wearing, yeah? But the sense of self is taking the role of being the skin, in a way, yeah? We're not seeing it as something that's been put on and constantly put on all day. We're not seeing it that way. That's my feeling about it. When I looked at it, it led me to there. You know, oh, excuse me 1 second, it's just a little different.
Well, no, it's just, it's hard to say like love is arising between us. I have to say I'm in love.
Yeah, that's just the language, we do that, yeah.
Okay, but I mean, just, okay, if you want to get back to the hardwareness with the brain, you get, there's so much activity, like I say, going on, Paul. It's, I know you're kind of abstract there with the mind, but where the two, I mean, you have a brain, that's the hardware, the mind is the software, right?
I don't know, find out.
I mean, we wouldn't be having this conversation otherwise, right?
Are we?
Okay.
We can go that way too. Why do you want to stop right there? If you want to go, let's take it all the way. Are we having it?
I know, yeah, well, it's an energy, I mean, we're basically
But you
on
see,
a quantum level.
wherever you
we're not
stop,
Newtonian.
wherever you stop, that becomes the reality. There was like that old book that guy wrote, and he said, let's say if you were looking at evolution from the point of view of the jellyfish, they would say evolution stopped the jellyfish. They would think they're the crown of creation. Yeah? We get to us and we believe we're the thing, and this and that and that and this.
No, but we're aware. I mean, a jellyfish is not aware, he's aware. We're aware that we're going to die, or we're going to stop one day, right?
I see what
We
you're
evolved
saying,
beyond the jellyfish.
but when the ego is just an auxiliary piece of the mental hardware, or software, right? Hardware, you say. That's fine. The sense of self is a different fish to me. That's all. I'm looking at that. I don't care about the ego. You need to have one, let's say, to sort of keep things more manageable here and meet people and all like this. Yes, all that stuff. It's a necessary component, but it's not you. This feeling of the sense of self is different. It's taken to be you. You think you have an ego, right? You don't think you have a sense of self. The sense of self produces a feeling of being you. It's different than the ego. Most people say, I have an ego, but they don't usually say, I have a sense of self. They say, it's me. Yeah? That's the dilemma. That's where the bonding is. The ego is an auxiliary piece of the hardware or something, the software to make this thing manageable, this seeming place. But the feeling of being a self is a different fish to me. Yeah? People can be very clear about not being the ego, and yet there's still an identification as a self. And so they're still bonded. So they learn a lot about the ego with the hopes that they get relief, but that's not the real problem. That's the thing. If you think you have the real cause of all causes, and there's no relief that follows when you really investigate it, you're off. Yeah? The relief demonstrates the solution in a way. Then you get to see, when you get real relief from the seeming problem, then it's sort of like if I had a rash and I didn't know what it was, and I got about 20 different ointments and I put it on, and then one of them worked. What I do is I look at the ointment thing and I realize, oh, it says psoriasis cream. I said, I had psoriasis, yeah? That's what happens in a way. So, you know, the sense of self is much more dominant than the sense of having an ego and everything like that, to me. I think there's a very difference to me, big difference. So I'm not, maybe I should have used that in the term of glossaries, because when I say the sense of self, I'm not talking about an ego, not this feeling of having an ego or whatever, a representative. I'm talking about a sense-felt feeling that becomes the dominant alpha and the omega of the story about life, yeah? We're taking us to be a long-lasting, independent, separate entity. You're not taking the ego to be that. You're taking the ego to be something happening in your head, yeah? But we're taking ourselves to be a whole different thing. And that will even claim the ego. So you'll be saying, I have an ego, yet it will be the sense of self that's proclaiming it has an ego, yeah? Yes?
The way I internalize this is that self and the sense of self is not the same. and that the ego is the self masquerading. The ego is the one that you need to go out in the world and impress. The self is the place, or is that space that is inherently you, but not necessarily the sense of self.
Well, you may be using the big S for self, or like, yeah. I'm using the small s more from recovery and other things as self, yeah. Yeah. The idea is, for me, any noun I'm a little wary of. The idea of self, or I'm this, or I'm that. There's no this or that. There's this thing and thating. It's nothing can be quantified and captured as a locale. Yeah, it's always happening. Yeah. So freedom isn't something that happens to me. Freedom is an activity, just like bondage is an activity. Yeah. It is. It's an activity. And if the freedom isn't active now, it's what value has that freedom? None whatsoever at that moment. If the freedom isn't actualizing now, what value has it? Oh, I am free. Are you? The freeing is the value. Yeah. Once it's proclaimed as something, it loses its quality to have a huge effect. It's like freeze dried or nuded. Now I know it. Oh, God forbid. As soon as you know something, you've nuded it. It's like sort of like. I used to use this example a lot. Has anyone here ever had an epiphany? Yeah. You know an epiphany? Did you make a reservation for it? Did you know it was coming? Did you have like a monthly epiphany? It's usually on the third Wednesday every month, I better call ahead, I want to get the candle from the hotel, the nice vista, make it so nice. No, it's just an intervention in a way. Something intervenes in the linear story of Paul, yeah? And so that false continuum gets interrupted and there's a big gap, and then something's revealed there, yeah? Now what usually happens when one of those seems to end is thoughts arise and there's an identification as the thinker of it, or the thought's about you, and I'm having this incredible epiphany. Then the epiphany seems to stop, almost in its tracks. As soon as it's claimed, there it is, it's done. Now you do have an epiphany, but is that a verb of epiphany? No. It becomes something you put on your little spiritual mantle, and then you try to gauge how big of an epiphany it was and compare it to other epiphanies other people have had to see where you line up on the epiphany scale. This is what happens. The mind makes something all the time. So when you meet nothing, it's going to try to make it something. Once it makes it something, you've lost the quality of nothing. The quality of nothing's not going to have the influence as something. Yeah? Look at it. This is all nothing appearing as something. Where's the quality of nothing? It seems to have a quality of something right now. Yeah? This is what mind's doing. This is all nothing. The mental process is making it something, and then we're looking for nothing. What we're really looking for is the quality of nothing in something, because we take ourselves to be a something, and we can't look at it for any other way, because something can't look for nothing. It will always make it something. You got to question the something. If I'm not a something, bammo, you may find out that you're no thing. That's the only way to get there. You're not going to get there by the course of something trying to find nothing. You'll always make it something. But if you're not that something, you may be nothing. Yeah? And I have great faith that that's what you'll find out. So I always go at, am I a something? If I'm not that, that's that. As I don't start looking for what I am after I realize what I'm not, it's the realization of what I'm not, that's what I am. That quality of